Hello, fellow old schoolers. So was the final game of that evening with the composition A against a green-white Leprechaun deck. And that deck is so unorthodox that I thought that it would be only fair to use a little bit of time on the deck tech here. So it uses a lot of old school classics like Spirit Link and also If Be Freed and Force of Nature. Those were cards I remember playing as a kid. And it has the key components of the deck are combos between these cards where you play with a main deck Circular Protection green and then have various means of getting the opponent creatures to become green with cards like Green Lace and Alien Leprechaun. We also have the If Be Freed that can function pretty well with Spirit Link and also a green ward. And the green ward would obviously make your creatures invisible and also indestructible to the enemy's green creatures. So the Spirit Link works wonders on the Force of Nature, as it will negate the damage the Force of Nature do to yourself, so you don't have to pay the upkeep cost. But it also works on the If Be Freed in order to get, or just rack up a bunch of life, because it grants your life for each target the If Be Freed damages. That means both players and all flying creatures. And if you have a green ward on it, it won't damage itself. So it can just continue doing so. So there's a lot of these crossover combinations of the deck. And finally, and obviously, the Circular Protection green will also work against the damage from your own If Be Freed and the damage from your own Force of Nature. So yeah, again, a lot of different combinations. We also see a Veteran Bodyguard there. This is the entire deck in all its glory. And that works well with the green ward as well, because if the opponent creatures are green, well, then they won't damage the Bodyguard. So let's get going here. Obviously, this is not a tier 1 deck, but the only deck I had for the evening was my tournament deck. I'm not saying that's tier 1, but it's probably... I guess it's probably more ruthless than this Leprechaun deck, but we'll see. I don't know, I'm not sure. So the Leprechaun deck starts out with the Library of Alexandria, turn 1, so that's always a good start. But he has mulligan down to 6 cards. So there's a Sylvan Library out. Just a lot of libraries to read in there. So as we see, he draw from the Sylvan Library and then he just pays 8 life straight up in order to keep those cards. It's a pretty big risk, but it puts him within lower range, and I can understand the play because it's not like I'm a hugely a burn player. So it will net him a lot of card advantage if he can get that library going now. He puts down the forest. You gotta watch out for how many cards he plays here. He can play 2 cards a turn if he needs to stay within lower range. So we put out Unreal Dreams. That'll just shut down his combination immediately with the Sylvan Library and the Library of Alexandria. He can't use without suffering extra damage. And he doesn't have that much damage at this point. And the deck before, he had only 2 disenchants in his deck. I think that was a mistake, actually. He should put the Holy Strength. Oh, there's one there. But he should put those Holy Strength out, I think, from the picture previously, and put in 4 disenchants, at least. You should also have 4 Circular Protection green, I think, but it's a very fun deck. But, okay, so he removes it Unreal Dreams, but I guess we just kind of insist on it and puts out another one. And it's pretty mean at this point, but at least he can attack with the elf. I wonder how much he'll dare to use that Library of Alexandria. He won't use the Sylvan Library for obvious reasons. He's down to 9 life now. At least he doesn't have 2 Underworld Dreams against him at this point. That would just be, well, bad sport. Okay, so we put out a Lotus. And getting out a Singular Vampire. Cracking the Lotus and then wheeling. Okay, that saved his bacon. He disenchanted as a response, so he doesn't take 7 points of damage from that Underworld Dreams. just showing our hands here. He actually had a Lotus in hand, but he didn't want to play it because he wanted to be within library range. So he has to discard his entire hand, and I have emptied my hand, and now I get another one. At least he has gotten rid of that Underworld Dreams. So it disenchant his Sylvan Library, as it can be activated now without the dreams to keep it in check. And it doesn't really have any disenchants left, I think. Okay, so he puts a green ward on the Jusam Jin. You might think that would do something at this point, but without the combination with the Circle of Protection, it doesn't really do much at this point. It needs a green ward or something. He's digging through it. So we have a green Jusam Jin, at least. That's another chump blocker. Needs to get a lot of them out, because I can bolt them and then I can get in. Okay, but he has a whole army, entire army of elves. That's nice. Now, if only he could draw a Circle of Protection green or a green ward, that would be nifty. Or Spirit Link. That's actually pretty mean against me having those puppies in the main deck. So we draw a Strip Mine, and now he can't read with that library anymore. So attack with the Jusam, and he sacrifices one of the elves to it. And here's another Underworld Dreams. And a tutor. Yeah, and there's like a City of Brass up, so my guess is I'm going for an Ancestral Recall. And no, if not, a draw 7 here would probably be the best call, actually. Okay, that's a Force of Nature. So stand aside, Jusam Jin. Your granddad is here. 8/8 trample. But he doesn't have any of his combinations up, so he has to pay 4 green mana for it. But he has that available. Pay 4 green mana each turn. Okay, so let's see what we got with that tutor. If I thought about it, or if I just went for the Ancestral Recall as a reflex. Okay, that looks ominous. Yes, that's a draw 7. So that puts him down to 1 life. Cut a bit forward here after shuffling our respective graveyards, and there's a bolt. That's game. He actually has the Swords to Plowshares, but he had to use on his Jusam Jin, his Force of Nature, but he doesn't have any white mana to cast it with. So that's 1-0 for the Composition A. A lot of very cool cards from the Leprechaun deck, but he didn't get any of his crossover combinations off the ground, but he has many ways to make them work. So he starts out with a Pendelhaven and one of those Leprechauns, and now it's my turn to get a library. And I'm on the draw here, so I can use it immediately. And puts out a Mox Ruby. That's a Savannah. And okay, so the Leprechaun attacks and he uses the Pendelhaven to boost it, so it becomes a 2/3 creature. Pendelhaven is actually a surprisingly effective card in these green aggro decks. So we're a bit mana screwed here, but just got the blue marks, so drawing with the library and then drawing with Ancestral Recall. We should draw into some mana now. That's 5 cards in this turn. So we got a scrub land, then we tutor. This is like, yeah, it's very, very good. Very good start. So there's a Black Lotus, cracking that, putting out an Underworld Dreams. And I don't know if I tutored for the Black Lotus or the Underworld Dreams, or perhaps even a draw 7, I can't remember. But there we are. There's an Underworld Dreams, and very, very aggressive opening. So he attacks with that Leprechaun boosted by the Pendelhaven again. He's putting in work, that little fella. So there's an Underground Sea. So now we have the double black mana. That's so important. And completely mana fixed. So there's a Hypnotic Spectre. And finally, we're not against red. So those hypnotic spectres, they're vicious in this matchup. Very dangerous. So he attacks again with that little fella and puts out a Mace of Ith against the hypnotic spectre, so that's great. And I can't block that Leprechaun because the Pendlehaven makes him a 2/3 creature, so the spectre will just die if I try to block him. So we put out a second Underworld Dreams here. If we can't get in with the creatures, there's always the Burn and Dreams aspect. And a Chaos Orb. And I'm completely tapped out now, but I wonder if it wouldn't be a good idea to just straight up orb that Mace of Ith next turn and then get in with the Spectre. He can't disenchant as a response because he likely doesn't have any disenchants. Or he would have used them on the Underworld Dreams at this point, I reckon. Takes 2 damage each turn. And so do I from that Leprechaun. Alright. So potentially we can draw extra cards with the Library of Alexandria and just pick cards from his hand with that Spectre in a moment. We could have a Swords to Plowshares, of course. I guess I'm drawing to see if I can get a sinkhole or something else to get the Mace. Oh, that's a 3rd Underworld Dreams now. Really putting the pressure on him. Okay, and not drawing any land destruction, we elect to use the orb on that Mace. Ooh, it almost missed balancing on those dice there, but even without the dice it would have hit. So now we can get in with the Spectre, getting a card and send Avoid Fate. They're pretty cheeky, those Avoid Fate, but I get a feeling that most of the time they can be a dead card. I probably would only play with one if I were Jens Ole, and then get that 4th Circle of Protection green in. Perhaps, I don't know. So he takes 5 points of damage a turn now. 3 from those Underworld Dreams and 2 from the Spectre. But he has a couple of factories down there. And combined with that... Oh, and he puts out an EFB for free, so that can block the Spectre. And he can use the Hurricane effect of the EFB just to blow that Spectre out of the sky. If he dares to, because he's not at that much life and it does damage to both of us if he elects to do so. But he can use the effect if he wants to. So there's a factory from me. And the 4th Underworld Dreams. Oh boy. I think that's actually the first time in... I can't remember how long that I've had all 4 out at the same time. There's a Swords to Plowshares on his EFB and we get in again. That's a regrowth. I mean, if we get a draw 7 now, that would be 32 points of damage in his draw step just from the dreams alone. It's insanity. But even now, it takes 6 points of damage a turn, 2 from the Spectre and 4 from those Underworld Dreams for each card he draws. An Ancestral Recall on him would be 12 points of damage. Okay, I'll stop now. But it's just, yeah. It's a really good card, I think, in this type of deck. So he attacks with everything at this point, and actually it's pretty important not to feel so secure here. I'm at 3 life at this point. I mean, looking from the board state alone, this could look like a very uneven match, but it's not really. Had he drawn like a Hurricane earlier, he could go for a draw, actually kill me outright. He had those factories and yeah, but now it's too late. It's like a horde of Spectres and all the bad dreams in the world. So we get in with a single Spectre, which is taking out a veteran bodyguard. Oh, I would have loved to see that in play. Bodyguarding against the Spectres. But yeah. 4 dreams, man. I don't know if he plays with Tranquility as his after sideboard. That would be awesome if he had that. I think he does. Okay, that's game. 4 Undual Dreams. My god. But it's a fun deck. And we got I think we got 1 or 2 games more with this very unorthodox Leprechaun fella. So let's check him out, and I'll see you next time.